Guys, I have a confession to make. I eat fillet of fishes in secret, and not even my wife knows.
According to all known laws of aviation, there is no way a bee should be able to fly. Its wings are too small to get its fat little body off the ground. The bee, of course, flies anyway, because bees don't care what humans think is impossible.
Did I ever tell you two about the time Barry Allen and I got dinner? Yeah, it was over in a flash.
Welcome to the Council of Nerds.
The Council of Nerds.
Welcome, everybody, to the Council of Nerds.
Welcome.
Bees just don't care what humans think is impossible.
How good is the bee movie, though?
I'm gonna watch it.
We're gonna do an
Where's
episode
it?
on the bee.
Yeah, where's
movie.
it streaming? B movie.
I think it's on Netflix.
Is it really?
I think so.
Oh gosh,
At least it used to.
the bee movie. Why are we talking about the bee movie? I'm not gonna talk about the freaking bee
It's a
movie.
great movie.
Okay, let's talk about the B movie. It was actually my first introduction to Jerry Seinfeld. Like I had never seen any of his other stuff, and I was like,
Really?
"Dang, this dude is really funny."
Dude,
Still haven't seen his other stuff, but
The bee movie
Seinfeld's
didn't
funny.
inspire you to go and watch more of his content.
no, it did. But then my whole laziness and procrastination has kicked in for the past 15 years.
Sure, I get you. Yeah, I had senioritis in kindergarten, so I totally get it.
All right. Well, what do we talk about today? We are talking about the Mandalorian chapter. What is it? 12.
Sure,
I think
so.
episode
Came out.
4 of season 2.
Yeah. I know some people get mad. They're like, it's not episodes, it's chapters. You're
Who
like, okay,
cares?
chill,
It's also
dude.
not Baby Yoda. It's the child. Everybody's fine. Just
chill
child.
out. Great
Baby
episode,
Yoda's.
though.
I'm not gonna make that joke.
We have to do that a lot, I feel like.
yeah. I'm
Like,
not
we
gonna go
start
there. I'm not gonna
something
go
and
there.
I'm not gonna say. I'm not gonna.
It would have been
Uh,
funny.
tell us
Do we want to do a brief update from the game that we are all playing first, or do we want to do that at the end?
We could do that at the end. We also got to be
Okay.
careful because we're further in.
Well, I just want to
update
the
on
contest.
hours.
The contest of hours that's continuing.
Yeah.
There's
we'll do
been
that at the
valiant
end.
efforts to overtake my
Well,
my title, but
let's just do that right now. That'll be quick.
okay.
All right. Well, I know I'm in last place. So I think last I checked, I was at like 14 and a half, 15 hours. That's it.
Those are rookie numbers.
Those are rookie
You gotta,
numbers. I'm
gotta
putting
you gotta
them up.
pump that up.
Yeah.
Dan
I
is still in
am
second
in
place.
second place with 32 hours.
But he's closed the
So-
gap.
He has
I have.
closed the gap significantly because last time we did this, Dan was at like 12.
Yeah.
And I was at 21. So there was a 9-hour spread there. He's at least reduced the spread to 5 hours. But everyone take a second to realize that I'm at 37 hours with this
Oh.
game, which is more than a day and a half of my life. A full moon, like the sun has come up, it has set,
A full
and it has
moon.
come back up to the precipice of its turning
Precipice.
again.
Science.
And I have gone past that in terms of how much time I have spent in this. I have finished 4 areas, and I think there's about 12 more to go. So this game
And
a long haul
you
game.
have a young kid and a wife.
I do. I have a 9-month-old daughter and a spouse, and I'm taking 13 credits of school and have a full-time job. So, I'm busy, and every
Jeez,
spare
dude.
moment I have
Oh my
goes
god.
to games that I really enjoy. Yeah, and I have
Don't
no
you
shame.
have like homework?
Yeah, and I get that ish done, man. I got like 6 things to do this weekend, so
Dude, I have so much to do this weekend. I haven't started on homework. Gosh dang it, I hate school. I'm almost
I
done.
have like
though.
3 papers and 2 tests this
All right.
weekend.
Nobody wants to hear about our school. We're gonna talk about the
It's
Mandalorian.
lame.
Chapter 12, episode 4. For people who don't care, great episode, really fun. Brought back two characters that we haven't seen all season, which we all love, and that is Grief Karga, played by Carl Weathers, Chubbs from Happy Gilmore, for people who don't know that. And then Cara Dune, played by Gina Carano. Super good characters. I like those characters. Cara Dune is like, I mean, from the first episode she was put into the show, I was like, all right, she's dope. Like, great Star Wars character. Love her. Awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, the episode starts out with Mando trying to fix. That part was so cute. He was like trying to get Baby Yoda to like plug in the blue wire into where the red one was, and the red wire into where the blue one was. But if they
Just don't
they
touch
zap
them
you,
together.
and then he touches them together.
It made me think of like Rocket and Groot. It was just
yeah.
like, don't press that button because we'll all die.
I am
I am Groot. No, like it's just like
that's very funny.
I was gonna say at that scene, and then just a little bit after that when they're drinking or eating soup or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it just, I liked that they took a second to establish that they still have a very like, it's not quite a fatherly relationship, but it's almost like an uncle and nephew relationship right now. Like it's not quite to the point where he's like being very fatherly and nurturing, but like he gets electrocuted and he's like, "Are you okay?"
It was worth a shot.
Like, are you okay? Like he feels like he has to ask if he's okay. Like like it's just. And then it was interesting to see him lift his mask just a little bit to get that soup, and I think it's showing that he's willing to be a little bit more vulnerable, specifically with the child. I might be reading into that moment a little bit much, but it was a nice moment.
I also have been noticing this whole season so far that, I mean, with the little we've really seen of Baby Yoda, or the child, excuse me, he seems to like be growing, and not like growing physically, like height or anything, but like his intelligence. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but like he seems to be like talking more. Well, talking, like making more sounds and stuff, and that's like kind of cool to me to see that, because it's like how a baby really is. They start out just crying all the time, and then they turn into like babbling and crying all the time, and then to like babbling and then crying sometimes. There's like that evolution of a child's behavior, and it's kind of cool to see that in this like fictional.
Thanks for spying on my child, knowing her cycles. I do think that he's really evolving. He turned into a genocidal maniac, and in this episode he became a thief.
Being
so
a genocidal maniac changes a man.
He stole cookies from a child in this episode, which is just not okay.
Okay, but
by the way, those cookies look freaking good. I was watching this episode, and I was like, I want those freaking cookies, man. But yeah, keep going. What happened?
I was just gonna say, this episode was a really good story pushing episode, which I was very thankful for. I talked to some of my other friends, and I thought this as well. We all thought that it was gonna be more of like a filler episode,
because it was more because they were bringing back those two characters. I thought it was just going to be about what those two characters have been doing, and that wasn't the case.
Yeah, and also, last episode we got spoiler alert here. Oh, and also we're going to do spoilers on this episode.
No.
By the way,
also you can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcast, the Spotify's and things.
Everywhere and that you can listen
all
to a
of the things.
Napster,
LimeWire,
MySpace,
LimeWire, good
Live Journal.
Stop.
But yeah,
you can't find us there. Don't look.
You can also join our Discord by going to the link in our bio on Instagram. All right, back to the episode.
That's it.
Spoiler alert: because of last episode, we had Bo-Katan. I was thinking like,
what?
We're not gonna. It's just gonna be a filler next episode or whatever, but it wasn't, and it was awesome. And how plentiful and amazing has Navarro become, guys? Look at it. It's just
it's cool.
Flourishing in its goodness.
It's what happens when women are in charge. I'm just kidding. I'm making jokes.
I mean, technically,
cut that out. Cut that out.
No, I think it was interesting because the last time we saw it, it was literally like a leveled battlefield.
Yeah.
And they turned that little bar they were they were trapped into. They turned into a school, and like it looked like I think it was funny that Keith, is it Keith Karga or Grief Karga?
Grief Karga.
Grief Karga makes the joke later on. Well, not a joke, but he makes a reference. He's like, "This isn't Coruscant," and like they don't have all the nice things that other planets have, but it gave off this air of they have a lot of nice things at the same time, like clearly nicer than they had in the previous season. And it was, I mean, it's nice that they get a little bit of credit as turning that place from a bounty hunter hellhole into, a trade anchor for that sector.
Yeah.
So it's a cool thing for them.
Those bandits at the beginning that Cara Dune beats the crap out of, with like I call them the butt faces, like the butt crack faces.
I call them walrus guys.
I'll call them butt crack faces.
I'll
But
stick with that.
they're scary. Like they kind of freaked me out. They're creepy little guys. Yeah, and then like he was about to cut off that little rat squirrel thing's head.
Yeah,
but
like a ferret. It was
man,
cute.
I think they should use
was.
those guys more often because they're kind of freaky. They kind of scare me, man.
The ferrets?
Did you notice where they
No,
were?
the butt crack faces. What?
Did you notice where they were?
Yeah, it was
Where
that
the
was the
bandits were?
armor
That was-
place.
That was
right?
the armorer's like smelting forge.
I watched the episode twice, and both times that's what I thought, but I wasn't entirely sure. So
That's what I was like, that's
That's-
definitely the forge.
yeah, that's what
Like,
I
Yeah,
got.
you could see the what animal is that Mandalorian crest? Like
You
the
could see it-
Impostosaur or something?
The
Mythosaur.
Mythosaurus. Yeah.
Mythosaur, that's it. Yeah, you could see the outline, kind of like
Right.
when stores go out of business.
Yeah. Toys R Us
Like
had
when-
it up there.
like
Uh-huh.
when the stores that Spirit Halloween takes over every year. Spirit
Yeah.
Halloween is by definition the most terrifying parasitical creature on the
They're
planet because
squatters.
they take this carcasses of failed and dead businesses and turn it into their own enterprise, and that's terrifying.
That is. But it
Yeah.
We're not talking about Spirit Halloween.
worked.
Yeah, we're talking about the B movie here. Let's
Yeah,
get back
come
on
on.
topic.
All right, let's get to the nitty gritty though. This actually
nitty-gritty.
before the nitty gritty, that blue guy, I forgot his name already, but the blue alien from episode 1, chapter 1 from season 1.
I think his name's like
Chapter one.
Mithril or
Yeah,
something.
it's something weird.
Mhm.
I was actually happy to see him. I knew they were gonna bring him back because it was in the trailer. But like you could see like really quickly a bit of his face
Yeah,
in the trailer.
Mithril.
Mithril.
Mithril. He's
That
funny.
guy's funny. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
And like I know people didn't like him. In episode 1 they were like, "Oh, I didn't like him." Like they were like, people are never happy with what they get, but I don't know. I always thought he was funny, so I was kind of glad to see him again.
I'm drying out, boss. Well, you can stay here. Let us know how the lava flow goes. Like,
He's just like that
He was
weakling.
so fun.
Yeah.
uh,
But yeah,
I
all
did.
right.
I was actually worried the entire episode that he was going to end up shooting one of them.
Oh, really?
Like the whole episode, I was like, what is he
Mhm.
going to do? Because he had a
Interesting.
350-year sentence to pay off his debt or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm seriously sitting there thinking he's going to kill Grief. That was my thought the whole time. And I was like, they can't do that though. But every time, like, and then he got a gun halfway through the episode when they're in the base and stuff. And I was like, why would you give him a gun? What are you doing? Like, I was so mad.
That's funny because I didn't think that one moment at all. Like I was like, all right, he's just a scared little guy. Like he doesn't know how to fight. Like there's the part towards the end of like they're fighting on the Imperial base. And he's like behind the box and he keeps like ducking and getting up like he's gonna shoot, but he never shoots. That part killed me.
And the
It's
way
so
he does
funny.
it too is he like slaps his whole arm on the box and shoots. I'm like, dude, your entire half of
He
your
has
body
no
is
idea what
he's
he's
doing.
Oh,
But
man.
it's clear that the stormtroopers could not hit the side of a bantha because he should have been vaporized instantaneously. The way he was
Absolutely.
conducting
I
himself.
feel like it depends on the stormtrooper because like last episode those stormtroopers were lighting up Mando.
Hmm.
He was just getting
Mhm.
hit in the Beskar, but maybe some stormtroopers they just are gonna be stuck on a volcano base that has no purpose really, except it does. What?
It's where the losers go.
So in the episode, Mando gets there. He needs repairs, because his ship is still trashed.
Navarro, not the
when
Imperial.
after the Mon Calamari guy basically turned his ship into a fishnet.
Mon Calamari.
But so he's like, well, I need repairs. Let's go visit some friends. And they ask him to help them out while he's there waiting for his ship to be repaired. And because they discover that there's an Imperial base on the planet. And that's where all of the stormtroopers from the previous season, when they had that big battle scene, was from this base. And so they want to take it down.
Yeah.
That's kind of the crux of the entire episode, is them trying to get rid of this base so that they can finally get rid of the Empire from the planet they're on, so that they can even further establish this planet, their specific planet Navarro, as a good place to be, as a good trade spot, and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And then it just turns out into this huge thing that really pushes, like we were talking about, pushes the narrative and pushes the story forward a lot. And I really appreciated that, because even with the addition of Bo-Katan last episode, I feel like it was still mainly just fluff.
It was a fan service.
It was a great episode, but what it effectively was showing, hey, Bo-Katan's here and is part of it, and then it mentioned Ahsoka. Those are really the only two things that were really of material in the last episode.
Yeah.
That and that Moff Gideon clearly has a bigger plan. That was evident in the last episode, with the guy basically doing the cyanide capsule and not allowing himself to be captured. So clearly you're like, hey, there's more going on here. But that led to this episode where we found out a little bit more, not a lot more, but enough to keep me interested as heck on what the freak Moff Gideon is doing, because I want to know.
He is.
I feel like.
Go ahead, Dan.
Oh, I was gonna say, I feel like they gave us a lot to like kind of guess from. They're like, okay, try to figure out what you can.
Fan theories, engage,
Mhm.
like. And that 1 million people are going to be like, I know exactly what this is. And
this is what it is.
I started trying to look things up at a certain point. We'll get into more of it, the specifics, before I ruin anything further. But I thought a certain symbol that was seen on individuals was, and it's not a symbol that I thought it was. So I'm really interested to figure out more. But let's continue.
I was going to say first that Moff Gideon has, in this episode specifically, last episode a little bit, but this one specifically has kind of, in my opinion, finally has evolved into a good villain, in my opinion. In season 1, I was like, okay, Moff Gideon, cool. Like, how did that guy get the Darksaber? That guy's weak. like Mando took him down with a jetpack rocket and he was in a TIE
and
fighter.
some thermal detonators.
Yeah, so I don't know. I was like, eh. But now I'm like, all right, he's like mischievous. He's not like, I'm a beast, he's no Darth Vader, but I'm not putting him on the same level, but he's like Grand Admiral Thrawn, in the sense of like he's very like intellectually strategic, and not as much as Thrawn, but
I would say his presence gives me more. We talked about this in a different episode, that the only other Moff that we have a lot of experience with is Tarkin, but he gave me more Tarkin vibes in this episode, with his commanding of everything, and like his presence changes how people are in the show. And that, like, even though I think Tarkin made some, clearly bad choices that led to his complete and utter vaporization, but so I agree that Moff is much more tactical. It seems like he's methodical, and he didn't show up on Navarro by accident. You know what I mean? Like he didn't let his presence be known by accident. It was
right.
Now is the time for me to be, for especially these people to know that I exist and I'm alive and I'm a big thing that you need to worry about. Like, he's planned all this out.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to note too, and I think I've forgotten this a lot as the show has gone on, but we need to remember, like, the Empire is fallen. Like, this is post-Empire and Empire trying to survive. And so to see like their strength still around the galaxy is really cool, and they made note of that at the end of this episode. Again, I forgot his name, but the rebel pilot guy who we saw last episode, or 2 episodes ago, he said, like, the New Republic doesn't think like anything's really going on out here, but there's something going on out here and like in the Outer Rim. And he's like, it's like, and basically hinting like it's dangerous and we don't even know what it is. And so I think it's really important to note that like even though we know what happens to the Empire in the end, it's still pretty cool to see like the Empire is still thriving. You know, they still have
Yeah.
bases, they still have ships. Like they showed us it wasn't a Star Destroyer, but like one of the smaller um Imperial ships right at the end, you know. Like they show it. That's where Moff Gideon
Yeah.
is. And so it's cool to see that power still thriving in a way, and we know that it will kind of evolve into the First Order.
And that's what there was an interesting moment where that one female officer is talking with the guy who did the repairs on Mando's ship, and you find out that they put a tracking device on his ship, which I'm sure he will either find or deal with in whatever way that will be creative and fun. But she says to him to the effect, I can't remember the exact quote, so don't get at me, but it was to the effect of, "You will be rewarded in the new order."
Yeah.
Like that, like, and in my head, I instantly went First Order. Like that was like my brain went, okay, they are the seedlings of what will eventually turn into this new way of doing things. Because I mean, the First Order, like as much as the Empire didn't really mess around, they were still trying to govern.
Yeah.
The First Order, they literally were just trying to take over. Like it's a totally different thing. Like very much authoritarian and dictator versus the Empire had those aspects, but you still found pods of the Empire's rule where people weren't super oppressed, and you never had that feeling with the First Order. First Order was, we're here, we're the metal fist that's going to take everything down and change the way everything works. And so it would make sense to me that someone like Moff Gideon was the catalyst and the propellant to form this new really authoritarian regime in the First Order.
Now, before we get to the very, very nitty-gritty of this episode, I want to talk about one of my favorite parts of this episode, which was that speeder bike chase. That was so cool. The speeder bikes, first of all, go on record, I've always loved Scout Troopers, and I've always loved speeder bikes. From the time I saw episode 6 as a kid, I loved them. I thought speeder bikes were super cool. We had a toy and I loved playing with it. You know, like they're just awesome. And so seeing them in like a new age of technology that we have to make them look good was so cool to me. Like they just looked so good. The effects looked amazing. It made me.
I did think it was funny that two of them died
on the way
basically immediately.
Because my thoughts when I saw them drive off, I'm like, dang, those dudes, they got, cojones. They're like crazy.
The
and then two of them crash and die, and I'm like, yeah, that tracks. That tracks.
I'm like, I should rethink my opinion was premature. I'm going to take this back a little bit.
And their leader was like, oh gosh, of course they crashed and died.
There goes Bob and Craig again every single freaking time. Like,
hey Bob, hey Billy, that hurt.
That hurt. And then I've never seen whatever the freak tank speeder thing they were using to get away. Never seen whatever that was until
that Cara Dune took.
Yeah, but I thought that was really interesting, like assault vehicle that was like super fast and able to.
I'm not sure. I think they had them in Rebels.
Okay.
And I could be wrong. I know they had like prisoner transports that looked a lot like those.
Sure.
They're not the same because they had like prisoner pods on the side, like little jail cell.
English is hard.
But I also think they showed like those tank versions as well, and so I think that's where we see them. I'm rewatching Rebels again right now, so I'm gonna be looking out for them. But yeah, those are cool. That was a really cool scene, in my opinion.
And I think it was, I mean, I get why they were in like the TIE fighters that ended up showing up, but it was a bit overkill, in my opinion, to have like 4 TIE fighters go after this like one.
Yeah. I mean, I think the other thing was like, hey, our base just blew up. Might as well take all 4 and go after them,
And I also thought that because there's that moment where the stormtroopers, they see Mando shoot up out of like the chute, but they're right next to the control panel. I thought they were gonna end up saving the base. Like,
Oh yeah.
and they didn't. I saw the base exploding, and I was like, "Oof, you had one job, dude." Like,
They're fired.
They melted,
Yeah,
like
good one,
literally
Dan.
fired.
good one, Dan.
Oh.
But I guess we can get into. Oh, sorry. Did you have more to say about the speeder chase?
No,
I
I
thought
just
it was
thought
really
it was super cool, and I'm fine with getting to the nitty-gritty.
So when they get further into the base, really it's inadvertent. I mean, clearly it's not because it's fate and all that, and it's written that way.
Force.
It's the Force, but they are trying to get out. They go into the base. The base is basically powered through thermal energy from lava from this planet that we know already has a lot of lava because of previous episodes. But they basically just go in and turn the coolant off, which basically just turns the base into a bomb.
It was like a shield I think they turned off that just like let the lava rise.
So they have about, as Grief Karga says, 10 minutes at most to get out of there before the base blows up. They also thought that it was just a skeleton crew of troopers that were running the base, and it ended up being a lot of personnel. And they're running and trying to dodge through corridors to get out of stuff, and they stumble upon, with about 6 Bacta tanks with nondescript bodies. Like, I didn't get it. I feel like you didn't get a really good look at what was in these tanks.
I watched it twice. I looked very hard both times, paused it once, and I still couldn't really tell what I was looking at. But they're definitely beings. They're alien creatures. Different types.
And the 2 officers that were in that room tried to destroy the panels so that they couldn't get any information, which, like, really not that hard. Boom, 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 boom. But he, like, shoot across. Don't shoot down at one panel for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Twit.
I don't think it's working, man. Dude, I don't know what to do.
It's his first day.
Oh crap! They're gonna shoot us.
So one of the panels survived, and they get a hollow log of the scientist from the first season.
I have his name because I didn't want to forget it. His name is Dr. Pershing.
Dr. Pershing, who reportedly, and I looked this up and Logan had talked about it, seemed as though he had the symbol for the Cambodians. Is that Caminonians?
Cambodian.
That's it, Cambodian. Cloning department.
The Kaminoans are known for cloning.
The cloning guild.
It's really, it's like a guild.
It looks like kind of like an I and another line. It's very interesting.
L.
Yeah. And it was a log from him talking about how they were in some way, and maybe Logan, because he's watched it twice, can give more specifics, but they were in some way using the blood of the subject, aka the child. And my understanding, maybe the subject was separate from the child because he mentions the subject and then he mentions the child in a different context, but I think it's the same. And they use the blood. They're using the blood of the child to do something
evil.
So basically what I gathered from it, and then like researching afterwards and then seeing the accounts I follow on Instagram talk about it as well. I don't know all their names, so I can't give them like the credit where credit is due. But no, this isn't all my thinking. A lot of it comes from people who talked about it on Instagram, Star Wars pages. So it seems like what they're trying to do, because if you listen to Dr. Pershing when he's talking in that hologram, he says he talks about the subject, which I'm pretty sure is also the child. He talks about how he has a high M count, which is in metachlorians, which is, if you've watched, really, if you just watched episode 1,
milk. You don't know.
True.
Milk
count.
Milk.
And then you get some people who are like Malk count, and you're like, shut up.
Gosh.
No, but even if you've just watched The Phantom Menace, you know that metachlorians completely deal with like the Force. The higher the Force count, the higher
metachlorian.
The higher the metachlorian count, the higher your senses to the Force are. So like
Qui-Gon Jinn does a weird like diabetes test on Anakin,
Yeah.
and it comes back that he has a really high midichlorian count,
says
and
it
that's
was-
when he
I think
decides.
he says like
Higher
it's
than
higher
Master Yoda's.
Yeah, higher than Master Yoda's, which is impressive.
That's
And
impressive.
so they know that this child has a high metachlorine count. And what it seems like they're trying to do is like a blood transfusion, because obviously from the weird diabetes count that Qui-Gon Jinn does with Anakin, it is in your blood. And so what they're trying to do is test to see if you can do like a blood transfusion with a high metachlorine count into another being who doesn't have a high metachlorine count to give them more metachlorians to make them force sensitive. That's what it seems like people are saying is happening there. Now, to the reason why they're in a bunch of Bacta tanks, I don't know. Maybe the blood transfusions just didn't work, so they're like, all right, just throw them in Bacta tanks as like decoration. I don't know. I don't know, but
I
what?
have a theory about that.
Hit it.
So we know this is after the Empire, and like what sequels? That's what comes after. Yeah, the sequel movies. The big thing in that is force sensitive clones.
I've
Snoke,
read this, yeah.
force sensitive clones. The Emperor is a force sensitive clone, and so I think they're trying to figure out ways to create force sensitive clones so the Emperor can come back. And I think Snoke was a bunch of failed attempts at that before they finally got an Emperor clone. So I think that's what the research could be doing.
Well, it's interesting because later on, just after we get this huge info drop at the end of the episode, you see Moff Gideon in this chamber with what appears to be, in my humble opinion, clones of some regard. In my opinion, they seem like they look all homogeneously the same. My knee-jerk reaction when seeing that and knowing the previous scientist guy could have been affiliated with the cloning department, and I love saying cloning department, by the way, on Camino. I think that in some regard that's what that was, but I'm getting head shakes that I'm wrong, and so now Logan is going to demonstrate.
I'm not saying you're wrong. First of all, I want to say you're not
He's
wrong,
just saying
because
he's right.
I don't know the exact answer, but from watching it twice and then also reading some more on theories and then really taking a hard look at what I was looking at the end there, people from a book from the 90s, I think it is a Star Wars book from the 90s, which is obviously now Legends, but they introduced these soldiers like for the Empire called Dark Troopers, and they're droids. They're like elite droids that are solely for the purpose of combat. So
like commando droids.
Yeah, exactly. And their armor's very strong. They resemble stormtroopers in a way. And from pictures I've seen from that book, at least concept, I don't know if it's actually from the book, but they look very similar. And so I think that's what they are. But my first reaction was the same when I first watched the episode. I was like, are those clones? Like, they looked like clones to me, or at least, subjects that have been tested on somehow to be elite.
I thought they were Death Troopers from Rogue One because they were all so big.
Yeah.
But then, their arms looked really weird, like not human clone arms.
That's why, they could be clones, but they could also be these Dark Troopers, because they're definitely not Death Troopers, because why would they all be like in these little pod section things?
Especially when we saw Death Troopers in season 1.
Yeah, and
there wasn't a lot of fanfare there because everybody knew what that is already.
Yeah.
So why would they do it again now?
So I think it'd be cool. Again, I think we talked about this in a previous episode, that one of the cool things about The Mandalorian is just the mixture of all these things, all Star Wars. So we got prequels, we got original trilogy, we have animated shows, and now we're getting, and not now, but I think throughout the whole series so far, we've gotten a little bit of Legends here and there that have now become canon. And so it would be cool to see them be these characters from Legends. or I guess droids from canons, or legends. Uh,
Cannons.
Yeah.
Cannon droids.
I think there's an interesting layer there because if they end up being droids, you have Mando, who in season 1 was vehemently droid racist. I don't know, a mechanist. I don't know what you would call that, but
They just hated droids. One of my hold on. One of
Humanist.
my favorite lines from the Clone Wars is "Your mother's a droid," which is like a total insult to clones because their mother is a droid.
lol. But and now in season 2, because of the IG unit that he, in a weird way became friends with in season 1, he trusts droids a little bit more. You see him letting the pit droids work on his ship when he gets to what I hate is pronounced incorrectly, Tatooine. That's the it's Tatooine, not Tatooine. Okay,
It's not a D.
Tatooine.
It's 2 T's, man.
Welcome to Tatooine.
Tatooine. That's like
That's how Luke's uncle said it.
Yeah.
Welcome to Tatooine.
But so I think he's warming up a little bit more to the idea of droids, and then to have these show up and they are droids will just put him right. Like, he could get there, and then he just another shattering moment for him where he's like, nope, droids are actually the worst. I hate them. It's just there's an interesting layer there.
They might not be those droids, but they might be. But
It might not be the droids we're looking for.
Yeah.
Got him.
But it is interesting how Dan brought up that fan theory, which I also saw, of like the whole Snoke thing. I did see a theory that I was like, that's ridiculous. It said the title, at least. I didn't read the theory because the title alone just turned me off. I was like, it said, "Is Moff Gideon Snoke?" And I was like, stop. No.
Oh my gosh.
No.
What if
not.
he is?
What if Snoke is Mace Windu? It's still a chance,
right?
guys. It's still possible.
No, the best one was, is Snoke that little kid that says, "Master Skywalker, there are too many of them. What are we going to do?" That was funny.
Snoke is Darth Maul. He died the same way twice.
Yeah.
He didn't die with the first time he got cut in half.
That's true. Anyway,
got him.
What's cool though about the whole tying in this blood fusion metachlorine count thing into Snoke, at least the studies of Snoke or Emperor Palpatine, is that that's, if in my knowledge, they haven't really tied sequel trilogy at all. Other than hey, the New Republic exists. That's really all that we can tie to the sequel trilogy that I can think of. But so if they do that, then they're definitely tying, all the Star Warses together, which is cool. Dan, what are you doing with your elbow?
What needs to be done right now?
Is your elbow chappy?
What? Yeah, look at that.
Oh, did you hurt yourself?
Wow, look at that.
That was from a snowball. I got bullied.
Hey, snowballs are illegal. You could press charges in the city that we live in.
China.
China.
I really, ultimately, I think the episode was really. I didn't expect that this was the direction that where I think the show's going. It could be completely wrong with cloning and things like that, right? Like we've talked about. But there wasn't a moment in my head, really, even though knowing that guy was may have possibly had the symbol for the clone, like the cloning people on Camino, the cloning department. Even with that thought, I never had the thought of, I don't know. That's not what I was thinking was the way they were going to go, but I like it. Like if that's the way they do go, I think that's super interesting. And it's something that will, like you said, tie in the sequels in an interesting way. But at the same time, like you've said before, I want it to be its own insulated story that isn't plagued by the Skywalker saga.
No, and I
feel like
I don't think it will.
Mm-hmm.
I think it will, in a way, tie to it.
Sure.
But not solely. Like, I don't think that will be its sole purpose, is about like them bringing back the Emperor or even creating this Snoke thing. I don't think that's what it will be about. I think maybe it will tie to that. Like, that's the reason they're doing that. But then Moff Gideon has, wow, my voice just cracked again. But Moff Gideon has like a different purpose for his own personal power, if that makes sense. You know, the Empire, all those people, like they take orders from their leaders, but then they also have like their own personal evil in a way. And so that's where I think we'll go on with it. I don't think it will be too much. I hope, at least. And again, I the symbol on the shoulders, the clone symbol, is in my opinion still a clone symbol, just adapted for the Empire look and not the Kaminoan look, I guess, or the clone, like the Republic, or what are they called? Yeah, the clone era Republic symbol. And I think maybe the reason the Empire is using them to do this, maybe it's not cloning, but they have a set of knowledge and skills that they can use with like blood transfusion and that sort of scientific work.
They have genetic knowledge that they could try to use to get different things done. Because I still honestly think, like, with this information, that Moff Gideon is trying to turn himself into something more force sensitive so that he can more effectively use the Darksaber and all that stuff.
Or, maybe
whether or not that progresses into him making like an army of subservient semi-force sensitive clones, I think that's a bit of a jump.
I mean, maybe Moff Gideon is trying to become the new Emperor or the new Darth Vader.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
He's Kylo Ren. Guys, I solved it. Oh my gosh.
I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. Those are funny memes. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
There's a lot of funny memes with that. But yeah, that was oh, yeah, and then before the whole ending thing with Moff Gideon on his ship, two things. So Mando left Mithril, Grief Karga, and Cara Dune at the Imperial base to escape on their own because he needed to get back to Navarro to, I guess Navarro is the planet, but the little city there, to get the child. So he leaves on his jetpack, and then they're running from the TIE fighters, and they're like, oh crap, I think we're going to die now. And then the TIE fighters like pass them, and they're like, what the heck? And then all of a sudden one blows up, like something shoots it, and it's Mando on the Razor Crest. Super cool, like dogfighty sort of scene there. I love dogfights, which makes a shame that the new game Star Wars Squadrons was a bad game and nobody likes it, and it's already on sale for like up to 40% off or something like that. But like
Rip.
Yeah, like dogfighting in Star Wars has always been super cool. Rogue One did amazing with that.
Mm-hmm.
The episode where with the Krykna of Mandalorian, with the spider things, the Krykna, when they're sort of dogfighting the chase with the X-Wings, super well done. And now this, super well done. I love this new era of dogfights in Star Wars. It's super cool. So that was really cool. And then I also wanted to know, when we first see that, it's not a Star Destroyer. It's going to kill me that I can't remember what that ship's called, but it's like a small version of a Star Destroyer, at least in the way it looked to me.
Moon Destroyer.
Yeah. I think. Okay.
That's awesome. I wanted to be a Moon Destroyer so bad.
I wanted it for some reason. I know it's not, but when I first saw it, it gave me total Rebels vibes, like from the show. And at first I thought it was Grand Admiral Thrawn's ship before he got a big Star Destroyer, but it wasn't. And I was like, oh, dang, that would have been a really cool opportunity to throw in Grand Admiral Thrawn. His ship is called the Chimera. And if you don't know, there's like the mythology of a chimera is like an actual mythological creature. It's like this weird like squid looking thing, like kraken looking thing. And on his chimera, he has a massive chimera symbol underneath his ship, and you would have been able to see it. But I was kind of hoping it was Thrawn. I would have loved to have like Thrawn introduced into live action. It would have been really cool, but it wasn't.
Blue boy.
So like he is in an Arkinton's class ship.
Yes.
And it was a commonly this information's coming from a Star Wars trading card game. It's called Star Wars Card Trader. And there's this thing called Mandalorian Static Series 2 set, but it talks about his ship, and it's an ARQUITN class ship, so Arkinton class ship, which was commonly used by the Jedi in the Clone Wars.
Because it did kind of.
It did have some Clone Wars vibes to it too, actually. I mean, I think, let's put it this way: we never seen that ship in live action. I don't think. I think we've only seen it in animated shows, and so I think we saw it in Rebels, and then we might have seen something or a variety of it in Clone Wars. I mean, they of course adapted a lot of those ships into from Republic to Empire. You know, they changed them up a bit, but that's cool.
What about oh, never mind. No, I thought it was similar to the one in Phantom Menace, but different engines.
Which one?
The one that gets blown up in the very beginning.
Oh, no, that's different. That would have been cool. Though.
Interesting. So if you look up that kind of ship, you get it's like a smaller, here, I'll put it in the chat, but it's like a smaller version of the command ships almost. And then it just looks like it's been repainted almost. Let's see.
But yeah, I loved this episode a lot.
Me too.
It was and kudos to I don't know if this is his first time directing, but this episode was directed by Carl Weathers, who is Grief Karga. He directed it, and I don't know if it's his first time directing, but it's surely his first time directing something big. Oh yeah, that ship is cool. Man, that's a cool ship. But yeah, kudos to him. Whether it's his first time or not, that was a great episode. Not that I didn't have faith he would do a good job. I did say earlier, I'm not a huge fan of his whole acting style, but not because it's like, I don't think it's trash. It's not my thing. I think he plays roughly the same character in everything he's in, i.e. Chubbs from Happy Gilmore.
Apollo Creed.
Yes. But it was a great episode. Great job. I love how they use different directors. I do. I think it's cool.
Me too.
But I think that's a good stopping point there. Any last words? Punk.
Yeah, play Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's good.
So good.
And you can waste as much time as I have. And
you can rage quit like I
not
have.
not even feel bad about it.
Yeah.
We've all had our moments where we've rage quitted this game.
Yeah, multiple times.
Rage quitted?
But I just come back. Quitted?
Rage
Quitted.
I think it's
I
Quitted.
quitted.
Rage. Okay.
No, I quitted. Like in the past, I quitted.
Eh,
It's a thing. It makes sense if you don't think about it.
all right.
I am excited for next week's episode because I looked it up. It's called Chapter 13, The Jedi, and it's directed
Ooh.
by Dave Filoni, and it's written by Dave Filoni.
Well, if Ahsoka's in it, we all know my feelings on it.
Keep an
It's
open
a
mind.
no.
Don't have high expectations, but keep an open mind. We could
Yeah, I will.
have a new era.
I don't think she's going to be in it.
I
think she's going to be like, oh, shoot, the Empire tracked you. Here's a message of what you need to know. Bye.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was either Dan or Brian last week when we talked about Ahsoka being in the show and my not wanting it to happen thing. I think
One of my things.
I think if they did put her in it, it would be like what you guys said. Like it'll be like a hologram message because that's easier to voice dub, to use Ashley Eckstein's voice, who is Ahsoka.
It'd be interesting if she leaves a holocron behind and the youngling has to, open it somehow. That would be
Mando and the child have to
gonna
figure
eat
out what to do with it.
he just punches it until it opens,
Yeah. But yes, that's cool. This episode was called The Siege, which is a cool name.
Siege.
But yeah. All right. Well, again, you can find us on Spotify, on Google Podcasts, YouTube, Google Podcasts. Did I already say that? Podbean, all the podcast things. And then we have a Discord. It's actually been more lively again, basically from us. But I know our friend Connor has posted on here. I did make a whole new category section for just video games. I don't have all the video games in there, but I threw in like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Skyrim, Rainbow Six Siege, Minecraft. There's a channel for like just general video games. But if you want to join our Discord, our link is in our Instagram. Like the invite link to the Discord is in our Instagram bio. Our Instagram is the Council of Nerds. You can find us on all those podcast places as the Council of Nerds. Yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have anything else?
Thanks for listening as always. If you knew how many people viewed this, you'd know we don't do this for the viewership.
Hey.
We do this for the fun of it, and we just enjoy it. Like, these are conversations that we would be having anyway, and so it's just fun for us to be able to be heard by other people. And so we just hope you guys are enjoying it. And if you are, just tell other people. Because we know that the 14 of our concurrent viewers,
about average, yeah,
know other people that are nerdy. So just get them to listen to a little bit of it or what have you. I'm not saying you have to like tie them down to a chair and make them listen to us. But,
I mean, I'm not opposed to that, but yeah.
Yeah, like that's the best way to spread our message. But, we like talking about this stuff. We're going to keep talking about this stuff unless, some one of us gets mad at another one and then the whole band breaks up, whatever.
I don't see that, but okay.
We just enjoy doing it. We enjoy that you guys like to enjoy listening to it. So we're going to keep doing it. So thanks.
Yeah. And we understand. I go through the same thing with podcasts. I go through a string of listening to the same podcast for a while and then kind of get tired of it. And then I go to another one and then I'll go back to it. So, if you don't listen to every single episode we put out every single week, that's fine. Come back some other time to listen to the episodes you missed. It's still cool. But once again, thank you so much. And we will see you next week with the next Mandalorian episode, The Jedi. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
The Council of Nerds.